Hello, welcome to this week's edition of Investing Like an Executive. My name is Andrew Barden, the CEO at the Kenyan Wallstreet. I am here today with Wayne, the MD of Del Monte, Kenya. Wayne, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
So, Del Monte, I know you guys for fruit juice and canned fruit, but in speaking with you before this interview, I've come to realize there's so much more that Del Monte does. So, as the MD for Del Monte, Kenya, can you please tell us what exactly Del Monte does?
Canned fruit and fruit juice is just the end product. So there's so many processes that go to making the end products. So if we look at what we're actually doing here, the main business is canned pineapple. So that's the bigger part of the business.
Okay.
But we also produce juices in cartons. We've diversified in the last couple of years to fresh as well, so fresh exports. And the fresh exports is not only pineapples, but we've also started growing some avocado trees to export avocados. We've put down some mango trees. So, eventually from a final product, diversification is our future strategy and not just pineapples. So if we look at, what exactly we do, we can't produce those end products without being experts in farming. So Del Monte, Kenya is a fully integrated business that starts from the land preparation, farming, growing the plants, experts in agricultural activities, experts in research and development, seed development. If we didn't have the strength in agriculture, we would never have been able to introduce the MD2 variety. Now, the MD2 variety is a special variety that has a much stronger color, much stronger taste, sweeter, more vitamin C. So really a fantastic variety, and you need certain expertise to be able to introduce that type of fruit. So apart from the farming activities, we also have our processing activities. In the production side, we have the canning facility. It's a very old facility. We've been around with the canning for the last 60 years. And within that canning facility, there are also other processes where we are experts especially on quality. The Del Monte brand, means a lot to our business, and making sure that we meet the quality within our production lines is extremely important to us. We also do, as mentioned before, the juices. So we have 2 lines within our facility that does 1 liter juices and 250 ml juices of various different flavors. And then back to the canning side, over the years we've had to adapt and innovate. And one of the introductions that we had on the canning side is making our own cans. So that is a huge process just on its own, a business within a business, making 5 different can sizes on equipment that's running at 500 cans per minute.
Wow.
So it's high speed lines. Then we also have the fresh packhouse operations. So the fruit or pineapples come to the packhouse, and within 24 hours they are packed. They are into a holding room and into reefer containers and exported. Mainly to the MENA region, Europe. Okay. So and to be able to export, you need to also specialize in logistics. So, we have a full logistics department on site. We have containers, empty containers coming to the site from Mombasa. We fill the containers here. It goes through customs checks here. we put it onto a truck or the train, and then it's off to Mombasa. So very much a very integrated business. So when you see the fruit juices and the canned product, there's really a lot.
That's 5%.
Really a lot going on behind that, yeah.
Interesting. Now, you've been the MD of Del Monte Kenya since May of last year, but you've been with the company for over 20 years now. What was the transition like moving into the managing director role? And what were some of the things that, you found interesting about the new position or found challenging moving into this new position?
Over the last years with Del Monte, moving from South Africa as a production director, also with making canned product for Del Monte, but in that climate it's more deciduous fruits. So moving from one country, South Africa, to Greece. In Greece, I was also the managing director for Del Monte Greece.
Okay.
Doing similar canned product, deciduous fruits, and then finally coming to Kenya. It's been an easy transition, but also there's been challenges. Each country has different set of rules, different politics, different cultures, different people, different languages. So I think one of the things that has made the transition quite easy into the current position as managing director is that, I've had a lot of experience, cross-cultural experience, different countries. And then, working in Del Monte for so long, you understand the operating systems.
The whole value chain.
The whole value chain, the culture of Del Monte itself, the way Del Monte cares about the socioeconomic conditions where they operate. So that has really helped as well. And then I've been in Kenya for the last, this is my 11th year. So when I came, I was in the position of production director. Okay. And then, I've had a lot of time to learn and adapt and understand how Kenya works, how the pineapple production works, how the farming works. So it was a big role to step up into, but I think, with all the exposure that I've got over the years, it was relatively easy to step up into the role.
Okay, interesting. And Del Monte here in Kenya employs a lot of people, and you touch a lot of lives with your work. So I'm curious, one, how many people does Del Monte Kenya employ? And what are you doing to ensure that employee wellness and welfare, are taken care of to the highest standard?
Yeah. Del Monte employs, roughly 6,500 people on average. Sometimes it's a little bit more, sometimes it's less because of the farming activities. So, average about 6,500 employees. But then those employees, in turn have dependents. So if you start looking at the employees and the support that they offer to the rest of the family, we can start looking at another 28,000 people that Del Monte touches the lives, too. So at the end of the day, it's like about 35,000 people. Okay. And then, those people in turn live in the towns around us, the villages, and they also spend their money inside the villages, and that generates even more business and touches more livelihoods. And at the end of the day, it goes into the hundreds of thousands of people that just Del Monte operating in this area can actually touch the lives of. And and it's a huge responsibility. So we need to take very much care of the surrounding communities, other stakeholders, and employee wellness is very important to us. We have villages where we have housing for our employees. Not everybody, but a big majority of employees live inside Del Monte villages. That in turn is supported by schools. So we have Del Monte schools that we support, from kindergarten, secondary schools, primary schools. We also have various social halls within the plantation and surrounds. And we have clinics, medical clinics, that also support, the communities. And, the schools are open to Del Monte employees, plus, the external communities that want to go to our schools. So, we try and do as much as we can on employee well-being. There's also the issue of transport. We have many buses that transport our employees from their homes or pickup points to the place of work. So many activities that we do for employee well-being.
Okay, interesting. And with your answer, you've touched on the topic of economic impact here in Kenya. But I want to dive a little bit deeper into this topic of economic impact. So, beyond the families you touch, the individuals, who are employed here, people spending money in villages and such, and at Mama Mboga, is there a specific metric, on what your team internally recognizes as, hey, this is our economic impact here in Kenya? For example, we contribute X amount of shillings to NSSF each year. We do this. I'm curious, do you have a metric for that?
Yeah, there's various metrics. Maybe the first big metric is the pure output of our business. Mm-hmm. What we produce and what we sell.
GDP.
Yes, the contribution to the economy in terms of foreign exchange. So if you look at the number of containers that we are exporting, on an annual basis, both the canned product and the fresh product, we're looking at around 6,000 containers.
Wow.
That's going through the Mombasa port. So to put that in perspective, that's 6,000 trucks, mm-hmm. or up to 100,000 tons of finished product that's leaving the
You
country.
Probably have dedicated customs officers employed just for Del Monte.
Yes, we need to. We need to, and quite often we win the Exporter of the Year award.
Okay.
From the Kenya Ports Authority, and also imports. We import a huge amount of raw materials, farming materials, and other materials, apart from using the local suppliers as well. So that generates, more income in terms of duties, and other businesses, managing to operate and also earn an income. So the sheer volume of export, that means foreign currency coming back into Kenya. So if you look at what we also purchase locally, per annum, we spending about 8 billion shillings on various supplies, mm-hmm. to run the business. Examples of that could be from protective clothing to ingredients in the cannery, in our canteens. So there's so much that we spending on. We also do many CSR activities. One of the biggest ones is just maintaining the roads within the the community.
Like the road we came on this morning, maybe.
Most of the public roads, but more the non-surfaced roads.
Okay.
So the one you came on was a surfaced road, but still we do try and maintain that as well to ensure that it's cleaned. But at least 100 million shillings a year on just road maintenance.
Wow.
Then there's many other CSR activities that we do, like supplying clean water to communities.
Now, Wayne, earlier you had mentioned, providing transport to your employees and such. And I had heard earlier that you have now switched to electric vehicles for, staff transport and such. I'm curious, tell us more about that switch and how it plays into your overall sustainability goals here at Del Monte.
Yeah, definitely. We're trying to explore ways in which we can be more sustainable, and there are many initiatives that we have, and going electric on the buses was definitely one of them. We haven't entirely moved over to electric buses because we are operating in a very rugged agricultural environment.
Yeah.
Where the roads are, not always very smooth, and so we have partially moved over. This is a period of just testing how the buses perform, but it's the long-term intention to move totally over to electric buses and have various charging points, within the plantation. So this is one of our ways where we can, go green, reduce carbon emissions, and the electric buses are, they're quiet, they're very comfortable as well compared to the old diesel buses. So, our employees are the ones that get to travel on the electric buses. They really feel comfortable. So it's also, another way of not just sustainability, but also employee well-being. So the electric buses are really working well for us.
Awesome. Well, that's good to hear. I definitely know you need to test them for sure, because I've ridden in a few. I was like, yeah, this works on a paved road, but put some dirt under it.
Yeah, definitely.
The story may not be the same. So I think that's very important. Now, continuing on the topic of kind of your sustainability agenda, what are some of the key themes of your sustainability agenda? And how does this play into the longer term kind of goals, targets, and strategy for Del Monte, not just here in Kenya, but at the group global level?
Yeah. Very important that you mentioned global, because, the sustainability efforts is not just focused on Kenya for sure. And we also have a CSO, a Chief Sustainability Officer, situated in our corporate office that oversees the importance of sustainability. But coming back to Kenya, there are so many initiatives that we have started now in terms of sustainability. The buses, obviously, one example. By the end of May, we will be installing a 1 megawatt solar farm on the roofs of the cannery and the warehouses. So this will be now commissioned very soon. So that's quite exciting. But I would say the main goal and focus on sustainability is in the agricultural practices. So in agricultural practices, there are many activities. We were certified a couple of years ago under the Sustainable the SGC certification, which is similar to the rainforest certification. So it's already started a couple of years ago. Now our main goal is, apart from sustainable farming practices, and examples of that is, you have a piece of land and you don't utilize the whole land just for agricultural practices. You leave a certain percentage of land for natural habitat of flora, fauna, birds. So that's important. Growing, planting trees. But our ultimate goal is to try and look at all the biomass, what we used to call waste in the past. We now trying to look at how we can monetize waste and turn that waste into a byproduct. So if we can turn waste into a byproduct, a lot of people look at sustainability as an added cost to a business. But it doesn't need to be an added cost. It can actually be an income to the business, or even if you just break even, there's still something that you gain in for the environment. So another example where we're trying to monetize waste is we have, in the whole cannery process, you have pineapples going in. Some of the pineapple gets into a can. Some of the pineapple goes a different route and gets squeezed for juice extraction. And eventually, out of the whole process, you're left with a pulp, which is a lot of fiber, organic material. So we've recently commissioned a biofertilizer facility. And this facility, the aim of it is to use some of that pulp that is coming out of the cannery, and we're talking big volumes. Del Monte, Kenya, we growing and producing at least 200,000 tons of pineapples a year. So the byproduct that is generated just from the cannery is about 30,000 tons per year.
Wow.
So that's a substantial amount of biomass, and we're trying to take some of that biomass and use that as a base for organic biofertilizer.
Okay.
So this is one of the examples of, how we're trying to make our operation more sustainable for the long run.
Absolutely. And I recently came across an example. You mentioned the biofertilizer. I've also heard of a company that is able to kind of, for banana farms, take the leaves from the banana tree and turn them into plates, bowls, different things like that. And I don't think people realize, but like in agriculture, there are so many opportunities to use byproduct and such, in more sustainable ways, to where, hey, it's not trash, it's not just going to go to compost, but it'll actually be used for something that can even be economically productive as well. We'll have to talk.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because we're doing something similar with fiber.
Okay.
So there's also fiber that we can extract from the leaves, and we have a small startup on fiber. And then the more you try and extract as a byproduct, the more other sort of uses you find. Yeah. So when you take a leaf and you extract the fiber's maybe 3% of the leaf, but then you're left with this green gold, which now you can try and turn that into a product as well, an ingredient. So this is exactly how Del Monte is going.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm excited. We'll have to talk after this off camera about the startup that you have on the fiber side and different things. I'm interested to dive into that later. But right now, I want to talk about your supply chain. Your supply chain is incredibly advanced. And how would I put it? Incredibly long. from the farm, not just from farm to table. There's so many other steps to it. So if you don't mind, take us through what your supply chain looks like here in Kenya, how it works. I'd be interested to know more on that.
Okay. Like I mentioned before, we fully integrated company. So our supply chain, starts from the farm. There's a huge amount of procurement that is going into the start of that process.
So we have the farm. You're procuring things to plant a pineapple. Let's use a pineapple for this example. I think it'd be interesting. So we have this farm. Once you've procured what you need, what's the next step?
Okay, so the next step is getting that final product to the processing facility. That is in itself is a huge amount of logistics that's involved. Many trucks that need to transport that end or that beginning of the product, raw material to the facility.
And the moment it's cut, you're on the clock. You got to start moving. You can't say, we'll get to it in 2 weeks.
No.
Once it's cut, you got to move.
Yeah, you're dealing with nature. So when a pineapple is ready to get to the processing or to get sent overseas or packed, you need to act, and this is where we need to engage all our resources very quickly to harvest the fruit, get it to the cannery or get it to the pack house within 24 hours, and try to get it into a can. So so that it remains fresh and the product
within 24 hours. That pineapple is in a can.
That is the goal. That's right. Yeah. So the logistics side is extremely important in the supply chain, and then after that, from a sustainability point of view as well, we try as much as possible. I know circular economy is a buzzword nowadays, but it's something that we aspire to try and purchase our ingredients, raw materials, spares, packaging, locally, as much as we can, and to a certain extent, the biofertilizer facility is a way to reduce importation of fertilizers as well. So when we talk supply chain, it's a very advanced supply chain, from having a very big procurement department, both locally and centralized in our corporate offices, and then experts in various fields, production. I mentioned logistics as well. Trucks getting the product to the port of Mombasa.
So Del Monte is really an orchestra, and you're the conductor. Definitely. With all the different moving parts, keeping it all moving in sync.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, definitely. One of the big sort of stress levels in my position is that you oversee the farming, the processing, the procurement, the logistics, and there's never one moment where at least one of these sections are not very busy, and things do go wrong in any part of the process, and you need to deal with that and solve any issues.
Interesting. Now, earlier you mentioned that this is Del Monte's 60th year here in Kenya. I'm curious, what are some of the big learnings over the past 60 years, and what is that outlook for the next 60 years?
I think the biggest learning from the last 60 years is, growth. No business can be sustainable if you don't grow. So what we've learned from the past is that, you know, the company started as a small plantation, a small pack house in the Thika town, and then through different investments over a period, the facility moved into the plantation. The plantation expanded into quite a big pineapple plantation. Then at one stage, we had to diversify, introduce the juice production. And then another point in time, we had to diversify again, introduce can making, introduce fresh, move from some pineapple fields to avocado fields, to mango fields. So if we look to the past, sometimes it's not always easy to grow in sheer volume, because you also need to take into account the market requirements. And, you know, canning over the years is a market that's sort of flat or declining. And, you know, people's lifestyles have changed, health habits have changed, moving more from processed foods to fresh. So you need to take that into account. So if we look at how we've managed to grow over the last 60 years and where we are today, I think looking forward, we need to grow. And how we're going to grow is through sustainable practices, like we've been talking about, you know, making fertilizers, using the biomass for other purposes, using the leaves for fiber. So definitely we will innovate. There are a few investments that will be coming through this year. We're looking at you know, frozen production.
Oh, okay.
So that will give us another flexible option if we have canning, fresh, and frozen.
Okay.
Again, looking at the market requirements and people's you know, lifestyle changes. So the future, we need to look at how can we be sustainable, how can we grow, how can we diversify, and I think very importantly, from a social point of view, how can we contribute to not just the economy, but the socio-economic conditions of the stakeholders that are within our areas, like our internal communities, our external communities as well.
Okay. You've kind of already answered my next question, which was, you know, business is competitive. How do you remain, you know, competitive as a business? But, you know, you mentioned the potential addition of frozen, you know, different verticals as well. Is there anything, you know, else beyond kind of those things, diversification, investment, you know, value chain, solidification, are you looking at in order to remain competitive? Because as you said, fresh is kind of where the world's consumer is moving towards, you know. So I'm just curious, with some of these changes, you believe that you'd be able to remain competitive? And
for sure, you know, when we talk about competitiveness, and being an operation in Kenya, you know, we're not only competing, Del Monte competing with different brands, but we're also a country like Kenya competing with other pineapple producing or tropical fruit producing countries, and many countries like Thailand, Philippines are producing pineapples as well. So we competing on the global stage or market against other countries. So we need to look at, you know, all the conditions. Global climate changes is having a big impact, and so we need to, you know, see how we can innovate and we can stay ahead of our competitors and other countries, and, you know, through AI, smart farming, drones. These are the things that are going to help us to stay competitive. And at the end of the day, I did mention diversification. We cannot have a tunnel vision just on pineapple. So we need to look at everything else that we can do on the land that we have. A lot of urbanization is taking place around the plantation, and I think this is something that's going to grow in future. So it won't be possible to expand the plantation. So we need to try and make use of the land that we have more efficiently and increase our productivity, increase automation. So these are the things that will keep us competitive and survive.
Exactly. And I really appreciate the point you had made about we're not just competing locally, we're competing as a country as well. Kenya against Thailand and other producers as well. I think that's an important point people often miss in this conversation is, people don't just wake up one morning and say, I want to buy pineapples from Kenya. They're like, all right, who's got the affordable pineapples? Who's got ones that align with our values, our sustainability goals and such? So I think I just wanted to mention that's an important point that you made, that as a country, we compete with other countries at this scale because, as you alluded to earlier, the impact of Del Monte on the economy is massive. And so playing that massive role, you also have massive responsibility, which is, to make sure that you can sustain that economic impact and even grow that economic impact, for people here in Kenya. Now, I have one last question for you before we, go and visit and tour the facility a little bit. But I'm really interested to hear on the topic of your legacy as MD. What do you want your legacy as MD of Del Monte Kenya to be? And, what do you want just the legacy of Del Monte generally to be here in Kenya?
Okay, I think, in a huge operation that we have, it's important that we do not lose focus on the basics. So, we are experts in farming, we are experts in production, we are experts in logistics. So these are the basics. So my legacy would be that, we never lose touch on the basics. But, at the same time, we continue with innovation, the diversification, and the growth that we've been talking about. So this would be the really strong focus in the next couple of years, and the global market is also changing, and there are various requirements that the end consumer is looking at, and what is becoming more important for them. So, and to give you an example, when production started evolving, you had quality certifications, and each country had different requirements on quality, and food safety became really important, and it is really important. Then you started having things like ethical trading initiatives, and then certifications on how you trade, how you operate as a company, how you sell your products, your behavior as a company. Then we also introduced agricultural practices and sustainable farming certifications. So we move into another phase now where we're looking at the social side of where you operate within. So things like human rights and employee welfare, community welfare is becoming extremely important. So over the next couple of years, this is also going to be not just Del Monte Kenya's focus point, but the global companies focus on the requirements of human rights, socio-economic impact of the country or the area where we operate in. So this will be my legacy, and especially for our employees, I would like to make Del Monte Kenya make Del Monte Kenya employees their whole outlook towards the company as this is my business, this is my company, and expand that to the community as well, where the community will say, Del Monte means so much to us. This is our company. We support this company. So very much the legacy would be, how people see Del Monte Kenya Limited, not just globally, but how Kenyans see Del Monte Kenya Limited as well.
All right. Well, Wayne, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. I've enjoyed this. I've learned a lot. Your team's going to have to get me a juice after this.
For sure.
But thank you so much, and looking forward to touring the grounds here in a few minutes.
Yes, great. We'll show you around.
All right.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.